Hey there, fellow readers. This is Rambling Collector here, and we are back with another book review for all of you today. So, to give a little context, though, I've recently had to place myself on a book buying ban, something personally done by me, because I've come to realize that I have one too many books in my collection that remain unchanged, that have not been read yet, even though I've continuously bought more. So this is more of a personal issue for myself that I've had to resolve. But as such, it has allowed me to start diving into books that I've left on my shelf for a while and are just now getting into. For instance, like this self-published work here, done by Maria DeVivo, known as Witch of the Black Circle. Now, this is another self-published author that I have never heard of before until now, when I found this book. And to be quite honest with you, the very thought of it was intriguing, to say the least. This was recommended to me, but I'm not going to name names. But I will say the book itself was very interesting in how it rolled. The main premise of it is about a young character known as Josephine Turner, who she and her mother have just moved to Long Island, New York, after a long string of moving, staying in a location for months, and then just continuously moving away. And for Josephine, she believes it is her mother essentially trying to just stay with the in crowd and just go to all the rich parties, especially after her nasty divorce. But the main premise as to why her mother keeps moving around, as she keeps telling Jofi, is that she is cursed by a witch. Jofi is, not her mother. I should clarify on that. But the main thing is that whole entire phrase isn't exactly without a massive grain of truth, which we learn as we continue throughout the book, because with Jofi, with her just attending youth groups, finding friends who are also fellow rebels such as her, those who don't quite fit into the mold, she gets to know them through her church youth group. Throughout it all, though, the youth leader that she's with, Trent, he seems to unsettle her for various reasons that are explored further on throughout the book. But at one particular youth group meeting, suddenly she has this second sense awaken inside of her. As if it just sprung out. Something that has been there all along has just now awakened. And that whole phrasing of being cursed by a witch becomes far more real as the story progresses, because we see Jofi experiencing visions. We see her seeing what looks to be a portal in the sky opening wide before her, ready to engulf her if she can just reach that climax to fully awaken her power and enter the portal. Throughout it all, you see folks such as Acid King Ricky, who goes on to start a cult known as the Knights of the Black Circle, which mostly seems like just a bunch of potheads wanting to get their next fix. But there is some grains of truth in what he's doing with the fact of these occultic rituals he keeps performing. Along the way, we have folks such as Dan, Seth, Thomas, and Kit, classmates or friends of Josie that we get to meet and interact with throughout the story. And they're your basic classic rebels, just not wanting to be like the others, being massive fans of metal music, or just in the mood to just get high. And I really like the setting of this particular novel, that being in the 1980s, during the whole Satanic Panic era, where there was a huge rise in occultism, rebellion, gothic looks, and heavy metal, with people thinking there was occultic symbolism within the music. And I had never really heard of this era before, which probably means I need to brush up on my history at the very least. But one thing I will say, one of the major issues that I have with this book is a little bit of the pacing, if I'm being completely honest. See, there's a moment within the story where we first have Josie and her experiences when she's a young girl, seeing the portals opening up, hearing these messages within her mind, her powers fully awakening. And then we cut back to a time with her mother, and apparently her mother, Nancy, actually did encounter a real-life witch, because this witch was looking for someone to babysit her children for a while or act as a nanny, while Nancy herself was actually pregnant. Apparently with Jofi at the time. But here's the deal. this whole family was not a normal family. As a matter of fact, they kept on having weird things such as brotherhood meeting or sisterhood meeting. We never see the father with this witch, but we do see the two children, and they immediately grow fond of Nancy, just hanging out with her, having fun, and Nancy absolutely loves them, viewing it as perfect practice for whenever she has her own baby. However, these kids are not exactly normal, and at one point, one of the children, a young girl, places her hand on Nancy's pregnant stomach and seemingly communicates with Jofi within the womb. That alone is a little bit crazy. But the thing is, what really bugs me about it is that it takes place in the very center of the book, right after a very heavy climax where Jofi, encouraging her friends to just get high, and essentially what amounts to a massive orgy between them, between her and all of her friends, just to open up a portal which is on the very precipice of finally awakening her powers. And then it cuts to her having a sort of breakdown where she pretty much tries to strangle one of her friends to death. And then it cuts to the Nancy chapter, which really bugs me because of this sudden tonal shift where we have Jofi strangling one of her friends and almost to death, only for her to get knocked out in the process after just emitting this massive high and orgasmic experience that she just witnessed, seeing her on the very precipice of that and then trying to make it happen. And then we cut to her mother finding out that backstory, and the fact that her mother had actually met a real-life witch really threw me off. I am not going to lie to you. And then after the Nancy chapter, we cut to Jofi in the 90s, where she is far older, living with a rich psychiatrist who has gotten rich off of the fame of her case in particular, where she had spent multiple years in a psychiatric ward or being doped up on drugs just to try to make sure that she was clear for society after such a massive breakdown like what she had, which very much resulted in her nearly killing somebody, although eventually that character does die. But it's all the symbolism, the occultism, the little hints that keep popping up about her powers awakening, and now we see her where she now lives with a psychiatrist, making little doodles and art as she goes, making a little bit of profit from tattoo artists who want to draw her designs. But then, over the news, she hears of a man committing horrible murders while wearing a satanic symbol. And for some reason, this starts to reawaken her memories, because at this point, Jofi has blocked all of her memories of that night, of where she nearly killed one of her friends just to open up a portal in a massive sacrificial ritual. And then we cut to where she finally goes back after hearing her mother has passed away. And to be quite honest with you, again, the sheer shifting of the story, it feels slightly off, in my opinion. It really throws me off a lot. And then after that, we have Jofi fully abandoning her humanity by the end of the book, because she is finally able to open the portal, even for a moment, and feels this godlike energy filling her from the ritual that she has performed by summoning up bones, cleaning them, having a blood sacrifice upon the pentagram that she has drawn in the dirt, opening up this portal at last, gaining near divinity, shedding her mortal coil because of it, shedding all of her humanity as a result. And then she gets arrested by the police at the end of the book, which leaves room for you to pick up the sequel and see what happens next. But again, in my personal opinion, what would have worked a lot more was if we have the Nancy chapter as a prologue chapter. That way we can follow Jofi after this, knowing the truth, that she is in fact cursed by a witch. She just doesn't know it yet. And we see her awakening her powers and beginning to realize that her mother wasn't exactly wrong. I don't know, I just feel like the Nancy chapter is really in the wrong place. It should not be in the middle of the story, it should be in the very beginning, giving us context for what the story is trying to tell us. But overall, that is just my personal opinion, and quite frankly, I will say it is very well written. There is a lot of drug usage in here, mentions of satanic rituals, as well as some very nasty moments in here. I'm not just talking about sex. I'm talking about, like, straight up bloody violence, which the sex, to be quite honest with you, that didn't bother me as much as the bloodiness that occurs here. It's one thing if I'm seeing it in a massive battle story, but it's very much another thing when I'm seeing it in a ritual sacrifice like what is being shown here. But again, that is just my personal opinion. I want to hear what you all think. Would you want to pick up this book for yourself? Would you want to possibly brave its pages and see what your opinions are on it? Or would you give this one a pass? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you stuck around to the end of this video, thank you so much for listening. It's a great honor that I can share some of the books that I've read with you all, and especially in support of indie authors, because frankly, those guys don't get enough attention at all, if you ask me. But if you like this video, feel free to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, or subscribe if you're interested for more of this future content. Or if you have any suggestions for future reads once I've cleared up my TBR a little bit, let's be honest here, then please, feel free to shoot them down in the comments below as well. I'm always up for a challenge. More than that, guys, thank you so much for listening. It really means a lot to me. This is Rambling Collector, signing off for now, and have a great day, my fellow readers, and I will see you all in the next video.